Hey everybody, Preston Flat back again with my former missionary buddy from the LDS missionary days. Son, you aged pretty well through the years. Why, thank you. I'm happy to still be here, breathing. No, man. So, from the world headquarters of Preston Flat, from the catacombs, and indeed from deep within the bowels of Preston Flat, we bring you today's message. Today, I'm going to tell you about this idea of the Catholics, when you see the padres or the fathers up at the front of the building during their services, they'll have their hands like this, right? And or if there's candles, they'll have candles on both sides with a space in the middle and that kind of thing. And then when there's the host, they'll break the host, creating a place right down the middle, somewhat like when Jesus was crucified and the veil of the temple was rent in twain. It was ripped right down the middle. And how this matches, because there's this idea that the heart is like the pearl of great price, like the treasure hidden in the field, and this is the place for the indwelling presence of God. The place where you are, or you could say the place where I am, is simply right here. And that's the place that does not miss the mark. So I've talked about this somewhat before, but within mystical Christianity, there's this straight and narrow place, which it can be found in the place between opposites. For example, how straight and how narrow is the place between right and left? That's very interesting. Or the place between other opposites. In the Buddhist tradition, when they breathe, the breath will modify itself in whatever way it does, and at least in the forest tradition, they'll tend to observe the breath and follow it. But there's a place of ease to where if it goes too high, it departs out of ease, and then it enters into ease. And then if it's too low, it's departing from ease also. What I mean is when I breathe, my breath sometimes will roll, and if I observe it, I just observe it wherever it goes. Sometimes it goes here, sometimes it goes there. But the place that I observe is the place of rest between opposites that matches the place of the host. When it's broken, it matches the place between the arms of the priest. It matches this may sound stupid, but it's not. When you watch football and you see the goalposts, and it's saying, when you kick the ball, this is the place that you want to be, between the goalposts. And even when they make a touchdown, they go like this. Now, that could be just a coincidence, but it's also, it actually does apply, because in the Catholic religious system, you'll see that a lot, and you'll see talk hear talk about the Divine Mother, And one thing about the Divine Mother, they'll say, "Blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus." And even the womb, there's something on this side, something on this side. And what is there between them? The fruit of the womb, Jesus, So much of Christianity is considering this place of the heart, and the idea that not me, but Jesus said, "I am the way, the truth, and the life. And lovest thou me more than these?" So now, getting back to this idea of why the priests raise their hand, I don't even know if it's still known by them why they do it. I'm sure they will have some kind of explanation. And I want to say that even though I've studied mysticism for a lot of years, for a long time, I don't know if my explanation will be that orthodox, or if it will match maybe the Catholic view or the Orthodox view or maybe the Episcopal or one of these other views. It might match to some degree, but I sense that mysticism is something that isn't often written about, and it isn't something that they would necessarily want to just type up and print as a doctrine or teaching before everyone. But I really suspect that a lot of the monks and nuns that have devoted their life to their religious practices, I really suspect a lot of them will have the same viewpoint as I do. And that's the idea that there is a middle way. Now, the middle way is something that the Buddha talks about a lot, a place that's, it's not too much to the right, it's not too much to the left. Man, if you're playing in one of those old-fashioned arcade games, the pinball machines, and you got the big old ball bearing, the pinball, and you pull the thing back and you let it go, it hits the ball bearing, and that thing goes out like this. And it depends on how you hit it, but if you hit it just right, it can actually surf the place between right and left. The place that doesn't go too high, that doesn't go too low, but that for that application is just exactly right. And indeed, a place that's in the world, but not of the world in the sense that it doesn't get caught up in it. However, if you were to do that in such a way as to mismatch the demands of life in that place, it might go too high. See, that would depart from the middle way. Or it might go too low, and that would also depart. And doing that, it might hit the bumper, and then it would get all kicked around the inside of the machine. And that's when the thing would get beat up. And that similarly is a way that sometimes people get beat up in life if they just mismatch their world because they don't realize when they're going off track. They don't realize it in time, and then they collide with the world. That's why traffic accidents can sometimes happen where the person goes off the road and hits a wall, and then they try to recover it, and they overcorrect, and they hit the median, and the car gets all banged up, So that's just a physical example of how sometimes it's possible to mismatch the demands of your world, your place in the world. And similarly, when the priest holds his hands like this, there's this Christian practice which I've never heard of before, except when it came to me. But I mean, it's written in the scriptures, and you don't have to believe it if you don't want, but basically it's the idea that where two or more gathered in my name, there am I in the midst of them, that kind of thing. And of course, I grew up thinking, where two or more believers, 2 or 3 believers are gathered, then you got something good, because that means then God is in the midst of you, right? But I found that it works where there's 2 more believers, or, and this is the key to all of this stuff that I was talking about, it also works where 2 or more points are gathered. Please bear with me because this is wild. Now, as you sit there, I want you to try this. See if this doesn't prove it to you. As you sit there, there's a place where you meet the chair. You have 2 sitting bones, one on the right and one on the left, okay? Can you feel them both evenly? Just feel them both evenly. So what happens now, very simple explanation, is even if you wanted to feel them both evenly, you'd probably find yourself leaning in response to changing creation all around you. Just because you tend to lean toward things you do like and away from things you don't like, right? And so, even if you were just trying to feel them evenly, you'd probably find yourself leaning, even if you don't know why you're leaning. It's because everything as it arrives, cumulatively, it has its effect that there will be a lean. Maybe you can't figure out if it's one thing or another, specifically. But if you're leaning, the cool thing with this type of mystical practice is you can simply return it to balance and hold to and abide in this place, which in mystical Christianity is called abide in me. It's also called trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not unto your own understanding. And this, it creates this basically, that there's a left and a right, and between the two is a place of rest. So this is a very straight and narrow way, right? It's very straight and very narrow. But you'll find that when you gather points, one on the left and one on the right, you'll know what is in the midst of them, and the sense of this place can become wider. I mean, it can become wider. In fact, it can become as wide as the hands of the priest or any points that you want to sample. Because besides the sitting bones, you could sample these points if you wanted, or these points, or any two points you can gather, and then having gathered those points, simply don't lean. And so there's also this mystical way of practicing the prayer beads or the rosary, in which you use the segments of the fingers of the hands as if they're beads. You hold a contact point on one side, a contact point on the other, and then you simply don't lean. You simply hold to and abide in this middle way. And then the cool thing is you keep one side as it was, but you'll change one of these. So that even though apparently there will be a lack of symmetry as one side stays the same and all of these other ones begin to change to other places, through all of these changes, if you use it, for example, to pray the rosary or other prayer beads, through it all, you still steadily practice to hold to and to abide in me and to love me more than these. That means to, having sampled the points, to hold to this middle way. And when you get used to this, I find that it's been easy for me to abide in the place between left and right. And to instantly know when I'm leaning, that's the same as the wisdom of the Buddha, because it tells you, it's informative. It tells you the instant that you lean, it tells you exactly how far you've leaned, and then when you restore it, when you come back, you'll know spot on the very instant that you've returned. Why? Because you're sampling the sitting bones and you'll feel them evenly. It's just a tool. It's the equivalent of an old-fashioned scale, which is the equivalent of the Christian yoke. And the yoke is it is like an old-fashioned scale. But you can actually use your body in devotion, whatever religion you are. But in mystical Christianity, remember Jesus said, "He who puts his hand to the plow and looks back is not fit for the kingdom of God." Why would he say that? Well, this is devotion. It's where you hold to and you choose this one good thing and you don't turn away. Okay? But if you were to do this and then turn, can you see how you would no longer be abiding in this place? So it's literally the actual practice of the Christianity that you really do abide in this place called me, which I'm not talking about myself, but the place where God dwells within you. You hold to that place, and it's a place that abiding there, you go no more out. The world itself will continue to present itself to you in all kinds of, in infinite new varieties, in combinations that have never ever occurred from the beginning of time. You're sitting there now, you've never breathed those exact air particles before. The food that's in your stomach, that's never been there before. Yeah, maybe you've had something similar, but those exact molecules have never been there. Your hair is different length than it ever was, and the stars and planets are in different places. So this place, this situation that you're in this very moment, has never ever occurred before from the beginning of time. So it is unique, it is ever new, and abiding in the place between opposites. That's how you, with devotion in the human frame, you offer this experience while you abide in the place that doesn't miss the mark. And that's devotion, and it's turning not away. So that's the general idea. But can you see how this would match this, the lifting of the hands? And then the making of the cross too, man. They do this. Well, gee, I'm trying to think now. I got to use my mind for a minute. Where's the place between opposites? Where's the place between right and left? They do this and then they do this, right? Or they do this and this. There's a place between right and left, and there's a place that's not too high and not too low. And you can take, having this Christian yoke, having this mystical cross, it's possible to take up this cross and follow me in life. And I'm not talking about me, but, when you're devoted to God, you follow that devotion. So, that's one reason. Christ was crucified, and when it happened, the veil in the temple got ripped right in half, right down the middle, and it opened it up. And then when you go to like the Catholics, they'll have the host, the round host, and they'll break it like this. And, you could say, the host is the real thing, but do you see the space between the two halves? Do you see that? It's kind of like it's a world of things. People think of things, objects and all. But there's also a place between things. Okay? Even a hurricane, right? The hurricane's spinning around. It's just full of things. It's knocking things all over the place. But if it's a really strong, really well-formed hurricane, you look in the middle and you find a place of peace. It's like the eye of the hurricane. And indeed, you might know this, you might not, but those weather planes, they actually fly down into the eye of the hurricane, the place of peace. And they can fly right along just peacefully. And I've been in a hurricane or a typhoon, and I've been in the eye of the typhoon when it passed over. Man, it was like suddenly there was wind everywhere. That's when the typhoon was arriving. And that intensified until you get to where the eye wall is, and that's where it's really zipping. But then just inside the eye wall, the sun comes out. It's peaceful. It's like unearthly peace. It's just great. And you think, thank goodness that's over with. But then it depends. Usually the hurricane is still going and you're just in the center of it, right? In the peaceful place. But then as it moves across, then you get the return of the elements, But what if it's possible to use those eye walls of the hurricane as landmarks and to abide in the center place, come what may? What if it's possible to establish that, and then the world itself continues to arrive with invitation after invitation, each unique, each invitation, an invitation that's never ever happened in that form before, ever from the beginning of the world. And because you're established in this place, you have the equivalent of what's in the center of the hurricane, because there are the eye walls, even though they're zipping around, if you use those as references, you can treat them as walls of rest. And you can have the eye walls this far apart, so it's super straight and super narrow, or you can have them wider, depending on where you sample. But the nature of the center part is still the same. It's still peaceful. And that's the place of the heart, anyhow. So I thought you'd like that. It matches this idea, and you just see this a lot. Symmetry, two things, and then between them, the opening. The divine feminine, one side of the womb, the other side of the womb, and between them, the fruit of the womb, Jesus. And so if you're going to be attending some church or something, you can literally sample both where you sit, but you can also establish a correspondence between where you sit and an object of devotion in front of you. And you can actually, with that correspondence, you can still surf the middle way. And that will let you feel what it's like to be devoted, as if plowing a field, but without turning away. You know what I mean? It's pretty wild. I thought you'd like that. Hey, would you mind sponsoring me? Because the situation is I'm getting old, and that is no joke. And I have another source of income right now, but it's I won't be able to do what I do very long. And I'm hoping these videos can take up some of the slack. So really, what I'm hoping for is to get some monthly sponsors. That it'll just get it to the point where I can finally won't have to do so much of the other very physical type of work. So if you would look in the links below for anything, any possible thing that you might like, whether it be these kind of ridiculous merch shirts, or just anything else, everything below, pretty much all of it. If there's a chance to earn money from it, it'll usually be an affiliate link. And I do earn money when people click on those links, well, if they buy the product. So much love. Thank you.